Today's topic is sustainable housing in non-urban India. Hello, everyone. Good to be with you once again. Today, we have with us Rajendra Desai, who is a practitioner who's been doing this for decades in India. And we are very lucky to have him come here and explain to us what he's doing, why he's doing, how he's doing. Over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Subodh. Now it's really a privilege to be using this medium to reach out to people, because we've been working in mission mode and we try to not to miss out on such opportunities. So, see, basically, we talk of sustainable housing, sustainable. What is ultimately sustainable? Something that can be carried out for a long time, generations after generations. And in housing, uh, we have vast variety of local traditional systems and architectural practices which have evolved over a millennia, which are very much sustainable. Why they are sustainable, I'll get into it a little later. The problem is that today things are changing very fast. And in especially, we are talking about non-urban areas, and actually yesterday's non-urban areas are now becoming urban areas. And in those areas, we can see houses, buildings which are a couple of 100 years old and still standing. But what is moving in is something that is maybe not lasting for more than 30, 40 years. And the general mindset that is evolving is that if it's 30 years old, the life is over. And let's demolish it and let's rebuild it. All right. And this is an extremely worrisome trend, specifically from the viewpoint of global resource utilization, sustainability, climate change, global warming, etc. So for past 4 decades about, I and my wife Rupal, we've been working together to try and slow down the ingress of these new ideas and see how we can reduce their impact and how we can go back to what we were doing before. Now, let's, talking about sustainability and the traditional housing, why they are sustainable. Now, because primarily these, the systems are dependable totally on the local materials and skills. They're very much viable, easily replicable, and affordable. So easy access to the most common person. And they have high local economic component. Whatever you invest, bulk of it goes in the local economy. So it strengthens the local economy. High employment potential, it creates lots of local livelihood opportunities. Interestingly, they're easy to maintain, and they are totally within the control of the local people. They have nothing to do, with the areas far away from where they are. And they're environmentally less destructive and harmful. Some of them are absolutely not destructive at all. And last but not the least, they are part of the local identity. Each area in the country has its typical housing, which is very much, integrally sort of is part of the local identity, just like our food, our language, and our dresses.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I understand.
So, these technologies, they become highly optimized, and until recently they've been sort of, this has been happening independent of things happening far away. And I just want to give you a couple of examples.
Yeah, please.
I'll start with Marathawada houses. We worked there for 6 years in Latur. These are made of stone, earth, timber. I mean, these are the native materials found most easily there. And these houses were great in every which way until the 1993 earthquake struck. And that shattered people's confidence in them. And then, of course, new technologies moved in, and that's another story. But these houses are still there, and they're fantastic. Okay, going to Arunachal, this is biomass-based housing because there's a lot of bamboo, a lot of timber, and thatch. So these houses were, totally self-reliant there. But then, thatch requires frequent replacement. There are some other issues. So we go to Ladakh, there's a high altitude desert. Basically, there is earth, there is stone and timber. And these are fantastic up until recently. And now the climate change is making them vulnerable because,
Mhm.
places where it snowed, and now all of a sudden, instead of that, it started to rain. So, that changing context is now creating problems. Going to Kutch, people talk of bungas all the time, made of mud. So, these are very much locally based and they've been working beautifully. And now just most importantly, they are so much connected to the local context. When you talk of rain, cold, heat, all these things in every which way, they create the environment inside the house, which is so much comfortable. Like Marathawada, the outside temperature may hit 105 degrees, and still inside the house, you don't need an air conditioner or you don't even need a fan. Okay. So, this is why we felt that these are the houses to really focus on. Now, what's happening today? The non-local technologies based on non-local materials and skills are making inroads. People's aspirations are getting shaped by what's happening in the urban areas. Everyone is looking at the cities, all right? But the fallout of that is something to look at. The use of non-local materials like cement and steel, it's taking over, but the knowledge that is required to use them is not reaching the end users. And this is resulting into poor quality construction, causing severely reduced longevity of the structures and reduced strength along with that. Maintenance has become a major issue. On one side, we talk of pakka houses that you build it and you're not going to have to do anything about it for a long, long time. But that's far from truth. All of a sudden, you have houses, which starts falling apart in few years, and we are constantly struggling. So, and for people to take care of that become very, very much very, very difficult especially in the non-urban areas, because the expertise required for that are not available. Now, see, the modern technologies are based on exact science, and it
Raj,
specifies.
sorry, before you go on, could
Yeah.
you explain what is non-urban? What is a city of 1 lakh urban, or what is non-urban?
All right. Yeah, city of 1 lakh is also urban now. Sure.
Okay, all right.
It's city of 1 lakh, you will start finding houses which are 4 and 5 stories high now.
Okay.
So I'll basically go with something smaller. So say 25, 30,000, 50,000 people. This is I'll call it non-urban.
Yeah, it's not a village
So
anymore.
where the land is easily available, where you
Right.
don't have to go vertically up
Yeah,
beyond maybe 2 or 3 stories.
right.
All
Understood.
right.
Okay,
Yeah.
fine.
Okay.
So,
Now that's an important point.
yeah,
So the problem, with this modern technology is being dependent on the exact science. Small mistakes result into big long-term problems.
yeah.
And what we find is the modern technologies are less forgiving than traditional ones.
Okay.
In traditional technologies, you make small mistakes, no big problem. But
Yeah,
modern technologies are not like that.
yeah,
So, okay, but the other problem with these modern technologies coming into non-local, rural areas is there is reduced livelihood opportunities
yeah,
because, the materials are coming from outside. So, it's only locally you get some employment, and even in a lot of areas we have seen that the skills required also coming from outside.
yes,
Okay, so maybe locals are learning the skills little by little, but still there are a lot of specializations. So employment is a major issue, but more than that is draining away the local resources to far off places, and this
yeah.
is a worrisome thing. It's constantly weakening the local economy. Right.
Okay.
If Gandhiji used to talk about Gram Swaraj and all that, then it made a lot of sense. So because housing, roti, kapda, makan, that, it's the basic necessity. And if you're going to be depending on far off places, then it's a problem. All right.
Okay.
With all this, obviously, needless to say, it is expensive because things
Yeah.
are coming from far. So now also the other issue is that essentially from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, you are getting these boxes, concrete brick boxes, which means that the local identity is lost. But not only that, the houses have no connection with the local context. In hot areas, these houses are like oven. Until 2 o'clock in the night, the houses are like oven. In cold areas, they're very cold. In rain, the roof drips. Okay. So, so this is a major issue. And last but not the least, these construction systems have high carbon footprint and also water footprint. It's not just carbon footprint, but water footprint. So, I mean, in India, as we know, water is going to be a major problem in the coming years.
Yes.
And if you don't use enough water with these technologies, then you got serious problems. All right.
Yeah.
So with these contexts, I'll say that these modern technologies of housing are not sustainable.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Now, so there is a need to reverse or slow down this trend in the non-urban areas. And how that can be done? Number one, we have to educate the people about the pitfalls of the new trend. See, we find people, that somebody has money, he or she wants to build a house. Needless to say, they want to make a concrete house, because that's what everyone is doing. And that's what, there is also the prestige issue, so people go for that without realizing what they're getting into. Right? So this is one part. Next is that we need to promote the traditional building systems, but with certain improvements were found necessary. Like I said, Latur area after the earthquake, it was very much evident that the area is seismically active, and these houses of stone and earth and timber have to be seismically better. So we work towards improving the seismic performance of those houses.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you go to Ladakh or any of these high altitude desert areas, you'll have to worry about now the climate change, the rain coming and eroding these houses. So how are you going to do that? So these are the kind of improvements which are required. See, today, for example, hard timber is difficult to get in India. So people have been using soft timber for the pitch roof, which is a common roof in the villages. And the pitch roof, the timber, gets eaten away by bugs very fast. And that prompts people to move away from that to the RCC slab.
Yeah.
So, but there are ways of preserving this timber. We have done it ourselves, and it can be done locally. So these improvements are positively required, and what is required is to build people's confidence in them. And next is the training of local building artisans. They need to, of course, perform better in these changed circumstances, changed scenario. You educate them to exercise discretion on where to use the modern materials and how much.
Yeah.
Today there is a blind chase behind cement and concrete.
Yeah.
And we are not saying that they should be rejected. They have, cement and steel definitely has positive sides to them. What is required to have discretionary power? Okay. So, and then the building artisans also must be able to convince their clients. Okay. I mean, ultimately, it's the clients who dictate what they want.
Yeah.
And so they have to be able to do marketing of these new ideas. And last but not the least is the educating our young engineers and engineering students about the traditional building systems and as well as more sustainable modern alternatives
Mm-hmm.
so that they use them in their projects. Today what happens is this that like I went to IIT Bombay civil engineering more than 50 years ago. And even at that time, I learned only about cement and steel. So, needless to say, when I come out to practice for any project and every project, I'm going to recommend that and that only. So, unless and until I'm aware of the options, there's no way I can even talk about that. So, and along with traditional system, there are also more sustainable modern alternatives,
Yeah.
which give you quote unquote a pakka house, but with lesser amount of cement, lesser amount of steel, and you are not sacrificing the strength, mind you. Okay, I mean these
Yeah.
are very, very big ways of doing things. All right. So, all right. Now, coming to what we have been doing. Uh, Initially, we started back in 1985 at exploring more sustainable modern technology alternatives,
Yeah.
which I said use less of cement. And, we worked on these technologies for several years and promoting them and learning about them ourselves because there was very little knowledge available. And, if you want to take them to your clients, you better be confident about them. So we have, of course, had our own disasters and things like that, but it's been an interesting journey. But in 1993 came Latur earthquake, and that took us in a completely different direction.
Yeah.
And it opened up for us a post-disaster situations
Yeah.
where housing is the primary requirement. And what we observed in Latur and elsewhere was this is a situation where things dramatically change because this is where the government steps in, that's where the World Bank steps in, and then they promote obviously what their engineers talk of. Okay.
Yeah.
So we saw modern technologies coming in a big way, and this is where we had to then work in a different way. So our approach has been of lobbying with the local government, convincing about the good things about the local technologies and how they can be improved, uh, and training the government engineers because ultimately they are the ones who manage the government projects. Then train the practicing building artisans because they are going to rebuild the houses,
Hmm.
and sensitize the community members because
Yeah.
ultimately they are the recipients.
Yeah.
So the whole delivery system, what had to be worked on. And I mean, we after Latur, we had earthquake in Chamoli in Uttarakhand, and Kutch earthquake was a big one. Kashmir earthquake, then we had Kedarnath tragedy in 2013, Nepal earthquake in 2015. So there were a number of opportunities which in which we got involved in a fairly big way, and we learned also. There's been constant learning experience, and basically, somewhere along the line, we also felt that we can't be just working in the post-disaster situation. We have to have an ongoing, program. So back in 2004, we also started building artisan upgrading program. Basically educating them about the do's and don'ts, and because see, it's also interesting. I would like to talk a little bit about that. That
Yeah.
building artisans in India are not trained into any institute. Okay, I
Yeah.
mean they are literally, I mean, they are in hundreds of thousands or maybe a million or two in the country, and they basically evolve at the construction sites. And typically, today's building artisan was yesteryear's agriculture uh, labor,
Yes.
basically, someone who doesn't have land or maybe is a marginal farmer
Right.
and looking for extra income, getting into construction in non-agriculture season. And he comes in as a laborer, he works with a mason, and in bits and pieces he learns something, and then he becomes a mason.
Yeah.
And then next day, then someone else like him comes and
Yeah.
he teaches that person. So as a result, what has also happened that over the last few decades, last maybe 5 6 decades, as the need for construction labor has increased in the country with more and more construction taking place, the skill and knowledge level of these artisans has dramatically gone down.
Okay.
And this is what shows reflects in the quality of houses they build. And this is, I mean, whether in villages or small urban areas, it's across the board. It's bad. So we, what we have done is because I mean they don't even they're building say masonry houses of using bricks. but they don't know the fundamental rules of masonry. All
Right.
right. I mean, it's amazing that from foundation to the roof level, they build the whole house, and still they don't know the ABC of the construction. They use
Right.
cement day in and day out, but still they don't know the ABC of cement. What are the
Yeah.
do's and don'ts? And
Yeah.
as a result, what they build doesn't last long. So this is what we have started back in 2004, an ongoing program. And it's a 3-day program we do in the villages. They are not willing to give more than 3 days, because they always have work. So this is one, and we have covered something like about 15,000 artisans through this and other programs. And also during these years, we've had opportunities to work with United Nations Development Program, UNESCO, World Bank, Government of India, and state governments. Through especially at the time of different disasters, and with their support, we will also be able to make some path-breaking materials like manuals, guidebooks, videos, which have been appreciated quite widely by a lot of people. And which are very much required because this information is not available. So, and now our latest focus is on sensitizing the young engineering students,
Okay.
the future engineers of the country.
Yeah.
And we are working on creating a course at IIT Bombay titled Vernacular Construction Systems.
Okay.
And because we feel that they could play a big role in reducing the application of inappropriate technology in non-urban areas.
Okay.
So this is a nutshell what.
So who
what
will
we have
teach
been
that
doing.
course?
Well, that's a big question. So, I mean, there are actually two professors at IIT Civil Engineering and one at Sitara will be part of that, and officially they'll be the ones who will be teaching. If and when the course gets launched, I think we will have to do bulk of the work in the first semester.
Yeah.
But we'll be most eager to hand it over to them
I
because
understand.
we are not teachers at colleges. I mean, in
No,
the past we have given a lot of lectures and things like that, but not a course.
that's a very
And it's
different business. Yeah, this is very different. Teaching is very different from lecturing. Lecturing is different, right? Okay, good. So you have some examples where you think you have done great work, and we can talk about it.
yeah, when we think of our post-disaster interventions, Kashmir is one of the highlights we would like to talk about. There's the trouble spot of the world, and so from socio-technical angles, it was a very interesting intervention for us. We were very close to the line of control area. We were there for a few months.
So who hired you to do this?
Um,
Who's paying you for all this work?
well, for Kashmir thing, it was Aga Khan Foundation or one of the Aga Khan organizations. They invited us, and it was very interesting because we were in this remote area where Aga Khan had no presence at all.
Right.
And we had to do all the groundwork, and which was good for us because then that allowed us to communicate directly with the people. So, and there, fortunately, the main village we focused on had some remarkable masons who were so good that people in that area would wait for a couple of years for a particular mason to build their house. So we had 20 odd masons who were really masters, and we worked with them for about a month and a half building a couple of houses. We also retrofitted did seismic retrofitting of a school there, government school. So, and the most interestingly, when our term was over, when we pulled out, Aga Khan brought in other engineers, and then they carried on that program for a few years. And see, our focus was on local stone, local mud, and local timber. I mean, we did not change what they were doing except bring in the earthquake safety element.
Okay.
Okay, and it was a fantastic give and take relationship, really, because I mean, let me just elaborate a little bit.
Yeah, please.
The training was supposed to start tomorrow, and Rupal had designed the house, And in the night they came and they said, "Kya banane wale hain?" They wanted to see the plan. And they said, "No, no, no, this plan will not work." They rejected the plan. So the training had to be postponed. So next day, then Rupal went around in the village and she met women. And, so based on that, again, she altered the plan a little bit. And then the mason said, "Okay, this plan we will accept."
Okay.
And then all through it was give and take, because what we felt that unless and until they own up an idea, they cannot support it. So it was simplification of a lot of things, because typically when I as an engineer would think of something which is so simple, but they said that, "Oh, I mean, if you talk of this, to do this in the remote village, we will have to go back 100 miles and we'll have to get these things done, and then we'll end up wasting days. So ultimately, a good technology package got evolved, which Aga Khan supported without gold plating.
Yeah.
Because this is another thing we have seen, that in the disasters, the donors, they want to look good.
Yeah.
And but for looking good, they want to put a lot of cement.
Yeah.
All right. So Aga Khan did not do that.
Yeah.
They took the way our specifications were, and they promoted, using some of these artisans, some 100 more masons were trained, and a few hundred houses were built. So we felt that, I mean, if I want to cite a successful example, that is the best example.
Okay.
And yeah, I think.
Well, there you have done a lot of good work on the ground. This is really one of my friends from high school days. He's an architect in Jaipur. He says, "I haven't built a single new construction. I'm only supporting and renovating the old buildings because they are really locally designed, as you are saying. And if we can just modernize them and update them and keep them going, that is a major contribution because they are really local." And this is the same point you are making, that it has to be local.
Yeah, just one point you had, when you are, just to add to that.
Yeah.
One of the major contribution we look at is the seismic retrofitting of the existing buildings all
Right.
over the country.
Yeah.
I mean, you will not. I mean, I'm not bragging, but in a country of 1.4 billion people, we as a group have done more retrofitting of masonry buildings than anyone else in the country.
Wow.
We have been party to retrofitting of close to 800 buildings in Kutch, Latur, Delhi, Uttarakhand, Himachal, Nepal. And we are so convinced that you can't be demolishing a building because it's not safe. I mean, unless your needs are different, you need much more space and thing like that. But just because it lacks these safety elements, you demolish it. That's a colossal waste and a huge carbon footprint.
Okay, what's an example of a big building that you made earthquake proof or earthquake resistant?
All right.
Could you share?
Sure. A couple of examples I'll give. One is a subdivisional hospital in the town of Kupwara in Kashmir.
Okay.
I mean, Kupwara used to be a hotbed of militants, and we did that in the middle of all that. And it was, I mean, it is a huge hospital where until 2 o'clock in the day, in the afternoon, we could not work inside the hospital because it's to be just jam packed with people.
Yeah.
So we worked on the outside, and then we worked inside, and they gave small parts at a time because the hospital had to function. And still within 2 months, using a local contractor, we were able to retrofit it. If the hospital had to be demolished and rebuilt, it would have taken few years. So, and Government of India had supported that. They had invited us.
How do we know that it works? Have they had earthquakes?
Next earthquake. Yeah. But see, the thing is that actually, and the measures we've adopted are based on IS 13935. It's a building code. Okay. Yeah. And that is based on a lot of research, and so this is what we've been using. We have also retrofitted a couple of 2 and 3 story buildings of schools, big schools in Delhi, old Delhi.
Yeah.
So I think this is, of course, apart from that, numerous other buildings.
Okay. All right. So,
and also, but just one last thing.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, in case of an earthquake, these buildings will not collapse for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. They will suffer damage.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible to stop the damage in case of a severe earthquake. Okay.
Okay.
But what you want is to minimize the casualties,
Yeah.
and also hope that the building remains functional after the disaster.
Okay. Now I have a request. Okay.
Sure.
Could you please step aside and let your wife come?
Sure. More than happy.
Because she made the plan and she talked to the women. I want to hear from her how she did it, you know. We don't want to hear him tell us what you did. So could you please tell us what you did there and, you know, any other points that you have to make?
No, actually, being a woman, it helped our program to go to people and talk to uh, women of the house, also what their requirements are, what they feel about construction or the house requirements. So those things really helped. And
Chitro, for example.
yeah, I mean, I don't remember, but like in one of the villages, we were designing houses in Kutch. All the male members wanted nice big veranda in the front so that they can talk and they can sit and talk and socialize. When I talked with women, they said, give us some more space in the backyard so that we can privately sit there. Even inside the house, we had limited money. So women wanted closets,
Yeah.
built-in closets, where the men wanted to spend all the money outside for
Yeah.
the show.
Yeah.
So those things I could help in planning the buildings, what people or what the family would need.
Kashmir women meetings. Yeah.
And in many places, I conducted women meetings. I even sat with masons and I helped. I do all the awareness material, all
Okay.
the posters and paintings. I mean, even Latur, we had 4 videos we had made. I would get involved in videos, editing, uh, photographing, and the message what we want to convey.
Hmm.
So we can always do that. Women
Yeah.
can always be out.
Yeah, okay, because you know, the house really must serve the women also, not also, but primarily they are the ones who spend more time there, so it must meet their needs, obviously.
That means, yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on the kitchen, by the way? What design do you look at so that it's efficient or work or whatever, you know?
In the urban areas, I tell my friends, whoever wanted to improve their kitchen, I would tell them that go and see few more kitchens and find out what you like. What is the height of the counter? Uh, what type of area platform you want? Like in the villages, I still prefer lower uh, so that they can sit and work. And in that case, in the villages, I give them a lower height window so
Yeah.
they can cook and they can still see outside what is happening.
Okay.
While in urban areas, depending on, because sometimes we make all these kitchen platforms at 2 feet 6 inches height, which
Yeah.
is very low, and most of the women in urban areas have back pain because of the platform height.
Yeah.
So depending on their height, their requirements, I tell them, you decide what is convenient, then we'll design it accordingly.
Yeah, that
It's
platform height is very important, you know,
very important.
important, because if it is too high, it is going to strain you all the time, right?
But mostly it is too low.
Oh,
for
it is
most
too
of
low.
them.
Okay, so that is
Too low.
also, you have
That
to
is a
bend, and
problem
yeah,
also.
it's a serious problem, right? So,
So I tell them to go out and see what other people, where you are comfortable,
yeah,
or whatever you are using right now, why you are not comfortable. Then accordingly, their individual's requirement we design
Hmm.
and tell them to do that.
okay.
So things like that.
Anything else you want to add?
No,
No? Okay.
mostly talking is done by my husband, so I'm fine.
Okay.
And she was
Let us sit next
behind
to you
the.
and let's conclude with the two of you sitting together, because I know you work as a team. So you can sit together, and Rajendra, you can have the last word, and then we will close it. Okay.
No, I mean, for us, this has become a mission.
Yeah.
And like I say, that we need to, in India, we need to use the modern materials in housing with a lot of discretion.
Okay.
You just can't be blindly using them because there are other options available, and our engineers have to learn about them.
Okay. All right. That's a great message. Let's say goodbye to the viewers. Maybe if time permits, I'll catch up with you in 1 year, see where you are, see what you are doing, and get a progress report on what's happening. Till then, let's say bye to the viewers. And
Okay.
I will just be back. Thank you so much. I'll be back with some other people, experts, or maybe some young people. Till then, bye to the viewers also. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay.